Alright, I'll be the first to admit that I lied. I lied to you. I thought that was going to be my final mock draft, but I can't. Can't stop, won't stop. Slightly embarrassed. I've spent a ridiculous amount of time overthinking this draft just to be wrong on almost all my picks like most everyone else, but I obsess over it and I can't stop thinking about it, and I gotta make a new one. So this one's also going to be 2 rounds. It's going to be 2 separate videos, so it's not an hour and a half long. And I have a feeling that my draft is going to differ from a lot of people's drafts. So I'm going to try and make this interesting, keep this interesting, also keep it fairly brief without trying to overanalyze every single pick. I'm also just going to force trades to happen. I'm not going to try and make up actual real trade scenarios, for the most part at least. I think the only sure pick in this entire draft is Trevor Lawrence at number 1 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. R.I.P. Gardner Minshew. Your mustache was incredible. Your mullet was also incredible. I wish you nothing for the best. Nothing but the best, sorry, for any team that decides to probably trade for you. At number 2, even though I personally would not go this route, the Jets desperately need a quarterback, and I feel like they're kind of just grasping at straws, but we see it every single year. The quarterback's the most valued position in the entire NFL, and it's very, very rare that you ever get any more than about 2 or 3 solid ones in a draft, and I don't really see this draft being any different. But the Jets have to do something. Sam Darnold's gone, and they're going to pick Zach Wilson, even though he kind of looks like Tate Martell if Tate Martell didn't get stung by 1,000 bees. The 49ers. This is where the draft starts to get interesting. The 49ers, I don't personally see what they see in Mac Jones, but I've never sat down with him and had him show me that basically he's some football savant, the second coming of the quarterback position, as Kyle Shanahan has described him pretty much. So, even though, once again, this is not personally what I would do, I'm going to try and draft to what I think is going to happen instead of what I would like to see happen, which is the hardest thing of all when doing mock drafts. So, I'm going to say they picked Mac Jones here. I'm not too happy about clicking it right there, but I think that that probably is what's going to happen. So, now right here, pretty much every single human being on Earth that I have seen has the Falcons taking Kyle Pitts here. But this is where we are going to differ. I have the Falcons trading back in the draft with the New England Patriots. I'm just going to force the trade to happen. I have no idea what kind of trade will actually ensue, but the trade will most likely have something to do with Julio Jones and a couple picks here and there. So the Patriots will somehow get their quarterback and squeeze Julio Jones out of the Falcons in typical Patriots fashion of just stealing players for next to nothing. So I'm not even going to attempt to make some kind of BS trade here. I'm just going to straight up trade picks. And that will undoubtedly ruin my second round, but I don't care. So the Patriots trade up, and the only logical pick here, to me, would be to take Trey Lance. If anyone's going to develop Trey Lance into a quality quarterback, it's going to be the Patriots. I don't personally believe in Justin Fields. I do kind of have to believe in the Ohio State quarterback curse. There's literally never been a solid one ever. Justin Fields is probably already the best Ohio State quarterback to ever play in the NFL, and he hasn't taken a snap yet. Never really been that impressed with Justin Fields anyway. He lofts the ball at all times. So I think he'll be one of the multiple QB disappointments in this draft. But that's what I have the Patriots doing. And the Bengals. Once again, this is where things are getting juicy. This is where it's all gonna differ. You're seeing it here first. The Bengals take Kyle Pitts at number 5. The Bengals do need a tight end, even though it doesn't say it on the needs, but the needs on most of these sites are pretty terrible anyway. The Bengals do need a tight end. Their only tight end that I can think of is Drew Sample, and unless you think Drew Sample is better than Kyle Pitts, which, newsflash, he's not, I think you take the best player available right there. This draft is essentially the draft of the tackles. You can get an endless amount of tackles in this draft that I think will be pretty damn solid. This draft is very, very deep at tackle. This draft is quite deep at wide receiver as well, but it's not too deep in any other position. Fairly deep at corner, but they're not going to pick a corner at 5, obviously. So the Dolphins have a good amount that they could do here. They could trade out of their pick. They have a decent amount of picks. I believe they have 10. I could be wrong. But they could trade out of this pick. I could also see the Lions trading out of their pick, and I could also see the Panthers trading out of their pick. I think the top 10 is going to be kind of nuts. It's going to have a decent amount of trades. So, for the Dolphins, it's honestly tough. It's tough. You could go wide receiver. You have Jamar Chase staring at you right in the peepers. But you also have Penei Sewell staring at you right in the peepers. I doubt they go Jalen Waddle over Jamar Chase. I mean, that'd just be kind of asinine to me. But you never really know, honestly. So, the Dolphins could either trade out of this pick a tackle, and try and protect their investment, like I believe most teams are going to do in this draft. It seems like 25 of the 32 teams need a tackle, essentially. There's going to be a lot of tackles taken, so I don't think you necessarily need to take tackle here since it's so deep. So if I'm the Dolphins, I take Jamar Chase right here. And at 7, the Lions need everything in the entire draft. They need every player. They've already lost 6 potential players, and that's not a good thing for the Lions. Because you need to draft literally every single player in this entire draft if you're the Lions. So, I'm going to have them trading back to accumulate picks. But the real question is with who? Should I have thought of this earlier? Absolutely. But I'm not good at this. So, the real question is, do the Broncos potentially trade up if they think Carolina wants Justin Fields, which we don't? That's insider information right there. I personally have Carolina's hotline. We've talked about it. We sat down. We interviewed about it. They said, we're absolutely not taking Justin Fields here. You'd be insane to think that we would. But there are a good amount of people that think Carolina is going to do that. I really hope that we trade Teddy Bridgewater before the draft, honestly. Or during the draft. That'd also be pretty cool. So, the thing you gotta do is find a suitor for either Justin Fields or someone like Jalen Waddle. So, Washington's coming to mind. Philly is coming to mind if they want to trade up and get Jalen Waddle before the Lions, because the Lions desperately need wide receiver. They got rid of almost every wide receiver on their entire team, and then they got injury-ridden Tyrell Williams, and they're like, all right, now we're set. We got rid of our entire team, but at least we have a guy that plays a max of 5 games a season. But I digress. Let's see here. What's old Perpsky going to pick? Also Chicago. That's a juicy little thought. Chicago might do it. Washington definitely might do it. Chicago might do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to say Chicago moves very high into the draft to pick a quarterback that won't pan out in typical Chicago Bears fashion. And if you're a Bears fan, you can't even really be mad at what I just said, because you know it's true. What's 4 attempts remaining? Forgot to force it. You gotta force it. You always gotta force it. Jot that down. Justin Fields. All 5 quarterbacks taken within the first 7 picks. I know I'm an absolute maniac, and all of this is incorrect. But you gotta admit it's a fun draft to look at so far. Now, if I'm Carolina, this is an absolute no-brainer. Penei Sewell has fallen to you. I promise I didn't do that on purpose, just to get Penei Sewell. But I mean, that's a no-brainer to me, at least. If you're Denver, I think the pick here is Micah Parsons, even though I personally would not take him at 9. Vic Fangio is a very defensive-minded person, and you need linebacker. So unless you take a corner, which is also a very high possibility, I think you take Micah Parsons because of his upside. I will give Micah Parsons that. He has the upside to potentially be one of the best linebackers in the league. But there's also a very good chance that he will fall for his off-field issues. But I'm taking Micah Parsons at 9 to the Denver Broncos, unapologetically. Now, at first, I was going to make the Cowboys trade up and get Kyle Pitts. And before you're like, that makes absolutely no sense, just think about how Jerry Jones drafts. Just take a second and think about it. What does Jerry Jones always do? He doesn't give a crap whatsoever about defense, and his fingers start tingling every time he sees a juicy offensive player, specifically wide receiver, that he can draft. That once-in-a-lifetime talent like Kyle Pitts just staring at him right in the peepers. It would be almost too much for Jerry Jones not to bite and go get Kyle Pitts, especially because they kind of do need a tight end. But they need everything on defense, because if you paid attention at all to the season last year, the Cowboys had pretty much the worst defense we've ever seen ever in the NFL. It was atrocious. It was phenomenal to watch, hilarious to watch. So, to the delight of all Cowboys fans, I won't ruin your draft. Well, not ruin your draft. Kyle Pitts is amazing. But I will go ahead and take a corner for you. And that corner is going to be Patrick Surtain. But I really would not be surprised if they took Jace Horn. The Giants have a good amount that they could do here. They could take Jalen Waddle, like a lot of people have them doing. They could also take Devontae Smith, if they like Devontae Smith better than Jalen Waddle. They also could take a tackle. I think 11 is way too early for edge. Edge this year is not deep whatsoever. There are still some quality guys, but it's not really that impressive. There are no round 1 pick 11 edge rushers in this year's draft, in my humble opinion. The only one that would be anywhere close is Jalen Phillips, and he is one bad tackle away from never playing football ever again. So I don't think you take him at 11. So what do the Giants do? I think undoubtedly Philly takes a wide receiver next. So my thinking is that the Giants picked two. Please stop texting me. The Giants have picked they picked two tackles in last year's draft. They picked Andrew Thomas and Matt Pert. So do you go tackle here? Do you go Rashawn Slater at 11 if you're the Giants? Or do you go wide receiver? I would think that if you think old Danny boy, Danny Dimes, is your guy, which I pretty much don't, I would think if you think he's your guy, you give him another weapon. You got Kenny Golladay, that's good, even though he also doesn't really stay healthy very much, but Kenny Golladay is very good. You already have Darius Slayton. He's proven to be a lot better than really anyone thought he was going to be. Sterling Shepard, I mean, he's basically already on IR and the season hasn't even started. You can pretty much bet your bottom dollar he's going to be on IR. So I say they go Jalen Waddle here. Would not in any way be surprised if they went Rashawn Slater, though, because Danny gets sacked a lot. He fumbles 25 times a year. Saquon Barkley gets injured every year. Basically everyone just gets injured every year for the Giants, so that's a tough break, honestly. I think if you're Philadelphia, I think the no-brainer pick here is Devontae Smith, but I could see Philly doing something stupid and just not taking Devontae Smith because everyone wants him to. It seems like they do that every year. The fans are just praying and hoping for them to pick one guy that it makes perfect sense for them to pick. And Philly's just like, nope. But we will pick the same position, just someone else. Just someone not nearly as good. And at the 12th pick in the draft, the Philadelphia Eagles take Nico Collins out of Michigan, who is essentially just Devin Funchess. But Philly fans rejoice because I won't do it to you this year. I will take Devontae Smith for you. So you're welcome. I didn't have to do it, but I'm just that nice of a guy. And if you're the Chargers, you got Justin Herbert. That's your franchise. That's your moneymaker. You got to protect him. The real question is, do you take Rashawn Slater or do you take Christian Darrisaw? Because Christian Darrisaw has been a pure left tackle his entire career, so that's a more proven left tackle for you. Rashawn Slater, he could go either way. He could be your starting right tackle, or you can try and make the move to make him your left tackle. So you could also go Jace Horn here, but I personally would not. I think offensive line is just much more important at this point in time. You've got to protect Justin Herbert so he's not running around all all game long like Russell Wilson or Patrick Mahomes and just trying their best, just doing everything in their power. So I'm going to go Rashawn Slater here. I personally think he's a better offensive lineman than Christian Darrisaw, but Christian Darrisaw is probably the second best pure left tackle in this draft, so you couldn't really go wrong if you went there as well. And just like almost every team in the draft, the Vikings also need a tackle, but they need edge pretty badly. They do need edge pretty badly. They don't have much coming off the edge. They do have Danielle Hunter, but he's the only one. He's the only one putting any pressure on anybody. So the question is, do you take the risk on Jalen Phillips? Do you take Kwity Paye entirely too early? Or do you just do the safe, logical pick and take Christian Darrisaw right here? I feel like you do. I feel like you take Christian Darrisaw here. It just makes too much sense not to. So here is the Falcons pick that they traded back for. And the reason why they traded back is because really what they need is corner, well, actually everything in the secondary, and they also need an edge player really badly. Once again, I think 15 is a little too early for any of these edge players. So the pick is either J.C. Horn or Jace Horn or Caleb Farley. Do you take the risk on Caleb Farley? He's a top 10 caliber pick, but we only have a 2-year sample size on him and he's an injury risk. Or do you take the proven, very, very, very good corner in Jace Horn? And I'm going to take Jace Horn for the Atlanta Falcons, even though I hate to see them get good players. I should have just forcibly made them get... all these players are pretty good. But I should have forcibly made them just have a stupid pick at 15. But I'm too nice of a guy. I really am. At 16, I've seen the Cardinals do literally everything you can possibly think of. I've seen them trade up for Jalen Waddle. I've seen them take Najee Harris at 16, which would be absolutely wild to me. I've seen them take every wide receiver in the biz, basically. But I think if you're the Cardinals, you gotta go corner here. You got rid of Patrick Peterson, your multiple Pro Bowl corner. You didn't do anything to replace him. You do have a couple corners on the roster. None of them even remotely close to Patrick Peterson level. But you did get Malcolm Butler, even though Malcolm Butler for the Titans was terrible last year. Who else do they have? They have that the corner from the ex-Falcon. What is his name? I can't think of his name. Any other day I would have known his name, but of course as soon as I'm on the spot I can't think of his name. But that's the only corners on your entire team other than Picasso Nelson, which is probably the greatest name in the NFL. So really just upgrade Picasso to starter and you're set. But I'm going to take Caleb Farley here. Top 10 talent, got to take your shot on him with how terrible your corners are. Now, my thinking for the Las Vegas Raiders is, yes, you do need offensive line. You don't really need safety that bad. I wouldn't consider you needing a safety really that badly. You could always use a corner if you're the Raiders. They don't have the greatest corner talent. But really, the pick is down to two people for me. It's Christian Barmore and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, a.k.a. JOK, which I'm going to call him the rest of the time because that hurt my brain. But if you pay attention to Mike Mayock's draft picks, Mike Mayock loves big level, big competition players, such as anyone that plays for Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State. You get it, the big boy schools. You got rid of 2 defensive tackles. You got rid of Mo Hurst. The only defensive tackle really on your roster is Jonathan Hankins. So I think you go Christian Barmore. If you're the Raiders, it perfectly fits how they usually draft. They got their Alabama boy. It would also make perfect sense for them to go J.O.K. Fantastic linebacker, in my opinion. The safest linebacker pick in the entire draft. But I'm comfortable taking Christian Barmore there if I'm the Raiders. He fits what they usually do. I'm pretty comfortable taking him right there. Okay, with the Dolphins, I think now you could technically go edge. You could go edge because it's not that deep of a class. So if you really want your edge guy, you got to get him right now if you're the Dolphins. But there are some very, very quality linemen still available. So if I'm going to protect my investment, if I'm going to give my investment time to throw it to Jamar Chase, I'm going to take a tackle. And that tackle is going to be Elijah Vera Tucker at 18. Washington, if they do not trade their pick forward, if they don't go up in the draft to pick Justin Fields or Trey Lance or someone like that, which I would not doubt if they did. At one point I had them trading their pick with Carolina. If you don't do all that, I don't see wide receiver as a need really for Washington. I don't know why that's up there at second most. If I'm Washington, I think this is pretty much a no-brainer pick for me. I'm taking J.O.K. Now here are the Detroit Lions at 20, accumulating probably multiple picks, but I didn't feel like forcing the trade. So let's say they got probably 2 more picks out of it. Now if you're the Lions, you need everything. Every single position in the entire draft. So you gotta look at who's the best available at this point. They have almost no corners. They only have Jeff Okudah, and he hasn't had enough of a sample size to really tell if he's a great corner yet or not. So you have very, very young corner team. You don't have really any linebackers. You have 0 edge. Yeah, they're sitting pretty. The Lions are in full rebuild mode. I can't speak to save my life. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't think you take Rashad Bateman here. It's a little too early for Elijah Moore. You might have him take Greg Newsome at 20. You need somebody on the other side of Jeff Okudah. And you got to start somewhere. You really can't go wrong with any pick with the Lions. So, good luck. They could take Kwity Paye. They could take Rashad Bateman. They could take Trayvon. Who knows? They could use every single player in the entire draft. So, they're pretty much impossible to draft for. The Colts have a tendency to make pretty boring picks. And by boring picks, I mean just like smart, safe picks. So Anthony Costanzo retired. I know they need edge, but I'm not going to have them take edge this early. I'm going to have them take Tevin Jenkins at tackle to replace Anthony Costanzo. Bada boom. Easy money. The Titans also have a decent amount of needs. They do need to replace Corey Davis. They have a very two-dimensional offense. It's run the ball 35 times with Derrick Henry, and when you do have to pass it, just throw it as far as you can to A.J. Brown. So it would make a lot of sense for them to take a wide receiver here. It would also make a lot of sense for them to take a corner. But the corners are getting a little scarce already. That is worrying. No, I don't think you take tackle. You don't take guard. This could be the first edge pick of the draft. I'm going to have them taking Jason Away over Kwity Paye because Jason Away's ceiling is very, very, very high. The Jets, you got your QB, even though he's not going to be the QB of the future, but don't tell them that. You need edge, you need corner. That is true. They got the needs right on the Jets at least. You need edge and corner very, very badly. But the corners are getting very scarce already. They're getting very, very scarce. Can I move these around and make who I think are the best? Nope. It's disappointing. I would definitely move some of those around. They have Tay Gowan as better than Tyson Campbell. That's unreal. Alright. I'm going to say back-to-back edge picks, and you can't tell me differently. They pick Kwity Paye here at 23. The Steelers, they got a decent amount of choices as well. I could see them going Najee Harris at 24. Is it personally slightly too early to me to pick a running back? Yes. You don't have a Saquon Barkley in this draft. Or someone like that. So, personally, Najee Harris at 24 would be a little bit, just a baby bit of a stretch. I think you get him in the second round if you're the Steelers, but he might not be there in the second round, so you might have to take him. They do need a lot of offensive line help, pretty much every position. They need a center pretty badly. They could go Landon Dickerson or Creed Humphrey. They need tackle badly. You got a good amount of choices here at tackle. But I'm going to have them going Najee Harris, even though it's probably very incorrect. You lost the man made of glass in James Conner. So really the only other running backs on your team are Benny Snell, Anthony McFarland Jr., and I think they still have Jalen Samuels. That's not the greatest running back depth that I've ever personally seen, but it is a close second. The Jaguars, they're going to have a very, very good draft. They got a good amount of picks. Them and the Dolphins, they're going to have an incredible draft. Jacksonville could go a good amount of ways as well. I don't think you go Zaven Collins right here if you're Jacksonville, but I could see why they would. They do need another linebacker pretty badly. If I'm Jacksonville, who do I get? It's too early for Pat. I do think it'd be a very good pick potentially in the second to get Pat, because you have 0 tight ends on your entire team. You got rid of all of them. They're all gone. You could go tackle here. You could go tackle, but I'm going to take the best player on the board and a need for Jacksonville and take Trayvon at 25. And I don't feel bad, not one bit about it. Bit about it. The Browns need a defensive tackle. You could go Levi here. You could go Davion Nixon here. I think it's a little too early for Davion Nixon, but he's also really quality as well. I think you probably go edge if you're the Browns here. The question is whom? Joe Tryon, Gregory Rousseau. Are the Browns the one that take the chance on Jalen Phillips? That could also entirely be the case. I could see the Browns doing that. I could definitely see the Browns doing that. But they don't. They take Gregory Rousseau at 26. The Ravens. The Ravens, you need wide receiver, you need center, you now need a right tackle, and you need edge. Toughy. But the Ravens have a good amount of picks, so I think they'll easily get that done. The question is, which ones do you proceed to take first? Don't think you go edge here. The Ravens have a great defense, even though there's a slight hole at linebacker, a slight hole at edge. The Ravens have such a quality defense anyway. So the real thing you should be focusing on if you're the Ravens is bolstering up that offensive line and getting that passing game going, because that one-dimensional offense is not working out too hot right now. So you have Hollywood Brown. He's a wee baby. He's a very little guy. You got another man made of glass in Sammy Watkins, who will undoubtedly be out by week 6. So I think you need a stereotypical number 1 outside receiver, and that is Rashad Bateman, and you pick him at 27. You have another pick at 31 to bolster up that offensive line. So I think you take Rashad Bateman before someone like the Packers or the Saints could potentially snag him. The Saints could easily go Zaven Collins here. I could see them going Zaven Collins. That would make a lot of sense. I don't think they go wide receiver this early. I'm not that huge on Elijah Moore to get him at 28. I think if I'm the Saints, I go Asante Samuel Jr. right here. But Zaven Collins is also a very juicy selection. But I'm going to go Asante Samuel Jr. here at 28. To the Saints. Green Bay needs everyone on the offensive line, linebacker, and not quite as badly, but corner as well. They definitely need wide receiver, but I didn't even bother mentioning that because, let's be honest, they're the Packers, and they hate Aaron Rodgers, and they hate drafting any sort of offensive talent for him to throw to. And once again, if you're a Packers fan, you can't even get mad because it's true. So if I'm the Packers, it's going to be either Zaven Collins or someone like Landon Dickerson or Creed Humphrey. Oh, the choices, the choices. Oh. It's crazy they have Nick Bolton above Zaven Collins. Who made this list? You're a maniac. I love you, but you're a maniac, buckaroo. I'm going to go Zaven Collins. I think he can stand to get center a little later. The Buffalo Bills. Now this is a very interesting pick. I have in my mind had the Bills take literally like 7 different people here. I've also had them trading out of this pick because out of all of the teams, the Bills are one of those teams where they don't really have that many dire needs. They're pretty set in all aspects. The Buccaneers obviously coming in first in that aspect. They could draft absolutely no one and just trade all of their picks so that when Tom Brady retires when he's 57, they have an accumulation of 28 picks to use. If I were the Buccaneers, that's probably what I would do, honestly. But I don't see them doing that. They might trade out of 32, though, if there's somebody that really, really wants to come in and get that one guy on their radar, that guy that they have to have. So the Buffalo Bills, they could take Jalen Phillips here. I don't see them taking Levi right here, although they very well could, and it would make a lot of sense if they did. But I think that's just a tad bit of a stretch, just a one little wee baby of a stretch. So I'm going to go against my own philosophy once again and take a first-round running back in Travis Etienne. Devin Singletary is not that guy. Zach Moss is a bruiser, and Travis Etienne can finally make the Bills have an actual running game that isn't Josh Allen running for 55 yards a game. They get that home run hitter, that big play threat at running back to go along with their already very good offense. Josh Allen finally has a running back that he can actually hand the ball off to more than 10 times a game. I think that is a good, solid pick for the Bills, especially because they don't desperately need any sort of offensive lineman, which is really deep. They don't desperately need any sort of wide receiver or any of these really game-changing positions. So I think running back is the way to go for the Buffalo Bills. You can always get your edge rusher in the second. I'm probably wild for that one. Now, the Ravens, okay, so we just got Bateman. They need a right tackle badly. Samuel Cosmi comes to mind, potentially. Edge rusher also comes to mind. I could definitely see the Ravens taking a chance and getting Jalen Phillips. If anyone's going to do it, I could see the Ravens doing it. But they also need a center very badly. So, Packers may have screwed up because the Ravens could easily take a center here with Creed Humphrey or Landon Dickerson. And once again, I just think that defense is overall fine. I think their defense is quality. You could get a late edge rusher that might surprise some people. Even if it's not a late edge rusher and he's just in the second round, you could get someone like Joe Tryon potentially in the second round. You could get Boogie Basham. You could get Azeez Ojulari if he falls to them. He could potentially get Jalen Phillips if everyone avoids Jalen Phillips like the plague. Chris Rumpf. Quincy Roche, which, man, why is he this low? My goodness. 168. That's insane. But yeah, you can get some hidden gems at even Jordan Smith might surprise people. Wow. 204, 227. These are quality edge rushers. I think edge might be a little more deep than I thought it was. Huh. Okay, so yeah, you could get an edge rusher later on. So I think if I'm the Ravens and I'm trying to bolster up that offensive line and get everything working like it did the first year, I go Creed Humphrey here at center at 31. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you got three choices. You trade this pick and gather some more picks. You saved every single starter for the Super Bowl, so you're in line to have potentially another Super Bowl matchup. So I would think the smart thing to do would bolster picks. Once you inevitably have to get rid of a couple key pieces next year, you have the picks to potentially replace them. So they're the only team in the draft that can say I don't need anything. So if you get a quality suitor to move up to 32 and take a first-round guy, I would think that it would be someone like Elijah Moore, if that's just your guy 100% and you really, really believe in him. Someone like Jalen Phillips, if you want to take the risk. Potentially even Rondale Moore. I don't feel like you move up to get a tackle. There's just a lot of tackles. I don't even know why I'm scrolling down that low. No one's going to move up to get anyone down that low. So who would move up for edge? Not the Jets. The Falcons don't need to move up. They're 3 picks away anyway. The Dolphins have a ton of picks. The Eagles actually have the most picks in the entire draft, so they could potentially move up. For a corner. I don't know if anyone's worth moving up for, though. The Jets could potentially steal that corner that the Eagles are looking for. I know I'm grasping at straws here, but the Eagles could stand to trade 1 to 2 of their enormous amount of picks. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. You can't tell me otherwise. I'm going to do it. I'm going to make them do it because I want them to do it. Once again, I'm a liar, forcing this to happen. I'm not going to try and make that realistic. And with the 32nd pick, the Eagles trade back into the first round and get Eric Stokes. That is going to be it for round 1. I'm going to do round 2 in a minute and release the videos separately. So stay tuned. If you enjoy the content, please consider liking and maybe even subscribing if you really like me. But that's the only time you'll hear me say it. I'm not going to say it anymore. If you hate the picks, please let me know. If you like the picks, also please let me know. Tell me what you would have done differently. Tell me what kind of trades that I did were absolutely wild, or what picks don't make any sense to you. Because trust me, some of my picks don't make any sense either. I just do them. So yeah, stay tuned for part 2, round 2. Peace.